So the fun thing I wanted today isn't happening, and I'm going to make a backup video, which is okay because this is actually a pretty pertinent topic. I think a lot of people have covered similar topics, but I'm going to talk about it from like the most basic point of view. A lot of you may look at this and go, yeah, I already practiced something similar to that, catch up with the rest of us grown-ups. This is kind of a very basic video that covers the gestalt foundation of something that a lot of gamers don't do, but should. And that is finance and budgeting for gamers. This is not going to be a video about how to war game on the cheap. Anybody who tells you that is giving you some good advice, but honestly speaking, it's not what this is about, and it's not the core of actually getting a good financing strategy or getting a good budgeting to handle your gaming hobby. Tabletop games are not cheap, and so some financial expertise is a good idea. I'm going to be passing down what little I know as of right now. Financing your own life is both a mindset and a skill set. And it really does apply to hobbyists as well. Essentially, since a lot of us tabletop hobbyists have a lot of personality quirks that'll often get in the way, recognizing those and managing those, they allow you to live your life and have fun, but they also prevent you from dying as a result of not having money. It's a very good balance to get. What we're really doing here is balancing a luxury item, which is what games are. Games are a luxury item. They're not required for us to live. And it's balancing that against our income, the budget we have. I think it's funny, a lot of the times you'll hear people talk about stuff like pay to play or other kind of things like there's some kind of unnatural disease. But it's funny that luxury items are immediately dropped into the realm of money. Those who have more money and can spend it more concisely with more flair often will do better than people who are scraping by on a budget and have decided to join the rich man's game. There's a reason I don't play Warhammer 40k anymore. Gaming may actually not be for you because it's about money in the end. It really is. Even though our real interest in all of this is the desire to have crazy cool shit in your life because normie stuff is boring. You want that dice. You want that chance of going into a fantasy world or pitting your forces in battle or just collecting weird, cool, geeky shit. Because nerdy, geeky shit is always fun. When it comes to really getting down to it, you have to understand your income and the time schedule on which it arrives. So, let us say you have 4 weeks in a month. It's usually not, but still. You have time frames, and you're slowly dying this entire time. Your life will one day run out of months and weeks to live. Still, you have this time, and you get money on, let's say, day X and day Y. And this totals together. You can't just spend all your money right here because this previous paycheck is footing that entire bill. So it really is about time frames and money, which is one thing a lot of people that aren't into finances don't understand. You ever heard the phrase time is money? That's often really a person who's got really good skills where they can, if they take a few hours to put stuff to work, they can usually pay for several $100s worth of stuff. I mean, that's different. You do have to understand that resources, not even money, because if you want to get into real money nowadays is kind of a political issue, but let's talk about it just openly. Resources, be they dollar bills or be they mana or whatnot, is limited. And you only have so many resources. If you think you will one day have the ability to pull endless diamonds out of our ass, you are living a fantasy. Resources have always been limited by something. And here, the problem we have in the real world is that you get a paycheck and let's say it's $1,000 worth. That's not just for games. I wish it was, but it's not. Your next paycheck may be $1,000 worth if you have a steady scheduled job. If you're based on commission, I am so sorry. Hopefully you're making more than $1,000 per paycheck. But let's say you have, in essence, $2,000 a month. This is not an ideal budget in the United States. This sounds like a lot of money. In the United States, this is poor. Poor people make $2,000 a month. Inflation's a bitch. Then you subtract $1,300 for the place they live in the big city they live in. After fucko takes his check, you're left with $700. And then you need to eat, you need to transport yourself someplace, you need to buy clothing or repair items or whatnot. You have to maintain yourself. If you don't maintain yourself, and I recommend if you're a gamer, get into hygiene and health. It will pay off in the long run big time. Seriously. If you're not doing hygiene and health as a gamer, it will bite you in the ass before you know it. Let's say life takes its toll and you're really only left with $200 if you're opportunistic. If you have other things you like to do with friends, like eat out, or if you have other things you do besides just game, you might be left with $0 to $100 to actually spend on your game budget. It's frightening to think about, but that's the truth. It is more important to spend your money, even if you're a hardcore gamer, on life and maintaining your life, health and maintaining your health, than it is to spend your money on games. That's the sucker's way to think on things, is to just spend money on games and games only. No. Keep all of your interests in mind, especially your ability to come home and have a consistent place to stay where you can gather your collection. This is why I hate the fact that the housing market is killing people in America right now, because we collect stuff and we need houses to put our stuff in. Yeah, it's depressing. And that's what I'm talking about financing, because trust me, keeping good monetary balance in your life is about the same wavelength mentally as keeping a good health balance in your life. So I'm not telling you this because I'm some trendy bastard. This is real life. This is how it works. You will die one day. You will one day be reduced to a pile of rotting tissue. Make sure you keep that moment as far away as possible, because living like there's no tomorrow means there won't be a tomorrow. Let's get into actually talking about budgeting then. First thing I want to point out is there are a lot of false things you may be told about as far as financing. There's some real serious bullshit anecdotes that people keep repeating that I wish would just phase out of the world. I'm going to mention a few here. Don't fall for any of these. One of them is a sunken cost mindset. The idea that if you put money into something, you might as well keep spending money on it to make it grow and invest into it. Believe it or not, that is a terrible, terrible way to think about anything. Sunken cost literally can get you trapped in something that you don't really have the money or spirit or intention in life to really afford. Avoid continuing putting money into something that isn't going to pay off for you. I hear this kind of thinking a lot in the Warhammer and Magic the Gathering circles. On the other hand, we also have, there is an anecdote that I've heard. You're supposed to spend 2/3 of your income on where you live. Excuse me? Really? When did that really become a thing? There are people who will give you things that you're supposed to do with your money. They say, you're supposed to do this, supposed to do this, supposed to do that. Like, you're supposed to send, like, each child you have costs $10,000 or so in 1980s dollars, right? To raise. No. Actually, you can raise a child for less than that. There are all kinds of really false financial anecdotes out there. And typically speaking, if you're being told this by someone who is literally a financial shill, or who is literally just some person on the street that watches TV and listens to like radio and stuff on the internet, don't listen to it. Don't go there. Bad idea. Here's what I despise. The idea of being in your league. Now, there's some things I don't want that don't matter to me. I don't want to eat caviar and drink wine with every meal. I don't want to own several mansions. I don't want to pay $40 million in child support because I wanted to sleep around with a bunch of women. Though that could be really fun. The deal is that there are a lot of mindsets out there where it says, oh, you can't do this because you're poor. You can't do this because you're middle class. You can't do this because, you belong in a certain bracket. I hate buzzwords like glass ceiling, but I like the concept behind it, where you don't let what other people are telling you to do determine how you're going to live your life. And this really matters in financing. It really does. Here's when it happens. You have fear of missing out. FOMO. It's kind of a modern buzzword. Fear of missing out. Oh, this new set's coming out. You got to get it. Oh, we're going to be playing in this tournament. You have to buy in and join it with us. Killing off It is peer pressure. That's what it is. Honestly speaking, I think it's hilarious that people online will make all kinds of funny quips about peer pressure, then they turn around and just give into it no matter what. Humans being social animals almost makes us stupid. But let me tell you something. You may want to take the pressures in your life and just get rid of them, because I guarantee you, commercials. Anything you see in a commercial, if a commercial has financial advice for you, tell it to go to hell. I'm willing to bet they're socially engineering you to step toward their product. Don't fall for it. So these are some bullshit anecdotes you want to toss out of your life before you start thinking seriously about, okay, I have a limited amount of time in my life and a limited amount of money. How do I make it expand into what I want to do with myself? Literally. That's how poor people become rich people. You don't get a lucky break. You manage your stuff better, and you eventually shore up all your losses. If your loss ratio is close to 0 and your gain ratio is close to 100%, or 100% after you pay for all your debts, you're doing pretty good. So, yeah, it's kind of true, but you may have to put off impulsive stuff. You may have to save up to buy something expensive. This is just life. We get into the idea that some things just have to be done right away. That might be bad for you in the long run. Let's talk about this. Game planning. Has anybody ever talked to you about this when it comes to gaming? Very likely not. It is not so much that you buy the cheapest stuff, or that you have more money, or that you stop being poor. Game planning is literally based on two things that I like to put us through. What do I like to do? What genres do I prefer to have in my gaming entertainment arsenal? It's really a good idea to just know yourself and understand that you may have some losses to gain a better modicum of happiness than what the stuff you enjoy is. Some people keep saying, hey, here's another bullshit idea. Hey, why not just go try something new? Sometimes new things are a bad idea. Trying a new thing is different from falling for a new thing. Trust me there. Who do I play with? Or, better yet, who should you play with? This is a good question as far as planning for games goes. If you are in love with 1800 era tall ships that float with their sails on the sea, and everybody around you plays Warhammer 40k and Flames of War, you should probably think about quitting gaming and picking up scale modeling. I hate to say it. If this is your real passion, you might want to edge in that direction. Just because gaming is a social contract. And you really should look for the people that want to join in with the stuff you like. If you meet people who just play the latest mainstream games that everybody wants to play, but you want to play something a little bit different, you might want to have to get brave with your social aspect and go looking for weird nerds like yourself. Trust me. One thing I'll also give you as financial advice is don't let your social weaknesses kill your monetary gains. As it comes down, what you really need to do is understand what you really want out of your game hobby, and then toss away the stuff that's extraneous if you can afford it. Sometimes, if you really want to just play games, let's say you're not a huge fan of science fiction, but everybody around you plays science fiction, you may want to find the form of science fiction you like the most and go with that. When you really get down to it and you walk into that game store and you're going to buy something, buy it with a plan. I know it sounds like I'm trying to preach to you from the financial school of things, but you'd be amazed how much money this saves you in the long run and how accurately your money is spent. The worst thing about finances is there's often throwaway money. Throwaway money is kind of like gambling. You walk in and you just kind of buy something at random, or you walk in and you just do this and that. You just kind of get something because, hey, it felt good to buy it. That is consumerist as fuck, and it benefits companies, and the game store does not benefit you. You want there to be a copacetic relationship where it's both sides, right? It's not going to happen if you just keep doing throwaway money. I have a recommendation for doing this. You have to take my recommendation, but it's very vague. Notice I don't like super exact things on my channel. I prefer to give you a framework to work with and not just tell you what to do. But here's a very good framework that I'm telling you to do. You might want to, when it comes to any new game or games in general that you're with, rulebook first. Read the rules, know how the game plays. If it's a codex or a new army book, same thing. Buy the rule book first. Don't just go out and buy the cool model that looks cool, that you like, until you've realized, okay, I've read what it can do in the game I'm playing. I know what it's capable of. I know how it fits my play style. I know how it does things. You might just want to jump in and grab it. Sometimes it's best to grab it while it's hot. I would not advise someone that has good money to spend on games to wait on things that they know they enjoy. But if you don't have good money with games, you might want to walk carefully. Also, if you are starting, this is my preferred idea. If you are starting a new game, the first thing you get is the freaking rulebook. Do not stray from this. The rulebook is the foundation of the game. Maybe there's a lot of bullshit and house ruling going on, but the deal is that the rulebook is what you're playing. Even if it's a PDF that your friend made, they're distributing online, that's still the rulebook. If it is a $60 tome that has foil stamped into it by Games Workshop or Wizards of the Coast, it's still a rulebook. And it's still the basics of the game, and you still got to know it before you actually start playing the game. Starter sets are in all kinds of places, because I've seen some really shitty starter sets in my time. Games Workshop used to make great starter sets, and now they don't. BattleTech has decent starter sets, although I'm not even going to get into that. Flames of War, in my opinion, actually has the best starter sets because you can buy a starter set and then a few extra boxes, and then you have everything you need to play the game for the most part. Starter sets should come with a rule book. They should come with everything you need to play the game as far as like specialty dice and whatnot. If there is a template you need, it should come in the starter sets. So most good starter sets give you what you need to play. That is a good substitute for rulebook when you're starting out. If you want to just spend money winning it willy-nilly, you better be fucking able to package that up with an income, with an investment plan, with throwaway cash that you could easily throw away on things that are as expensive as tabletop games. In other words, be rich or be upper class. Nowadays in 2024, there's not very much difference between being rich and being upper class. The rest of us are leagues behind you guys. That's another thing I'm going to talk about. Completionist gaming is something I've run across a lot with a few people. I don't have that. In fact, I'm kind of autistic and picky where it's like, I want to play a Soviet force. And they have Lend-Lease that's really good. But I wanted to play Soviet. So I'll just buy Russian stuff. That is a cool way to go about it, but a lot of people like to just buy everything. Oh, I want to play this faction, I'll just buy everything for it. Buy what you need. Buy what you need to play the game. Of course, you'll find a cool model that you might like and you pick up. I've done that before. With this standing point, where when you buy what you need, after you've read what your options are, you'll find that everything just starts falling into place for you and your money is well spent. Think of this. Accuracy of spending, not volume of spending. This requires you to be rich. This requires you to have a brain on your shoulders. You don't have to be rich to have this. This is the big one. This is why I'm saying buy what you need, not because I want to restrict you, but I want you to understand from your own desires. Be accurate with how you spend your money. That's a big thing about it. If you want to spend money on playing Warhammer 40K with your friends, you can spend $500 on your army. Make sure it's the army you want. Make sure it plays the way you feel like it. Then prepare to get angry when they change the rules on you 3 years from now. How you spend your money is a lot better than what you spend your money on or having more money in the first place. Then there's this elephant in the room, reselling. You have stuff from a game you were playing with your friends, and they got out of it, and you don't really care too much about the game. You can resell it. We have eBay, we have Facebook Marketplace, we have options. You can resell your army. But I have a few advices as far as reselling. First of all, know your market and know your timing. If the game pretty much collapsed and died, and you're left with the corpse of the game in your hands, yes, you can resell it. My serious advice to you as far as that's concerned is don't treat it like a turnover of money that you're making income. Put it up for the price you want to sell it at and let it sit there until it sells at that price. If the platform you're selling on doesn't support that kind of expenditure, you may just be stuck with either the game or getting less price. It happens so often. People will spend hundreds of dollars on a game and get a mere $10 for every 100 they spent. That happens a lot. People just lose when it comes to buying their games because they want to resell, and then the resale isn't worth shit. There's another thing I want to bring up when it comes to reselling, is the idea of reselling to make the money, but then in the future you want to buy it back. Can you live with that loss? Let me be honest with you. Know yourself. Know yourself and know what you can get away with. If you really did like the game and all your friends are walking away from it and you're left with that box, if you're left with a dead game in your hands, learn to be a necromancer like I. Keep it around, shelve it. You don't want to make decisions you'll regret. I have done this before. I am guilty of having resold and then later I rebuy. Very stupid idea. Don't do this. Know yourself and know what you like. Sometimes there's nostalgia, but if you're emotionally in touch with what you feel on the inside and you mentally can think through the steps of, okay, you know what? Yeah, my friends are walking away from this game, but I like this game. I'm going to shelve it and I'm going to see what happens in the future. Let them rebuy. You can sit on your original army and go, I've got my original army. Do you? But anyway, yeah, don't be that rough with it. But still, when the bros want to play the game again, they can rebuy it. You can just be like, yeah, I have it already. It's been mine for decades. But yeah, having old stuff that gets used again, you would think it doesn't happen. Have you played games for decades yet? It happened with me with BattleTech. I've given you some ideas, but for the most part, there's a few things we can take away from this. How you spend and the time scale is often more important that you have the money in the first place. Secondly, there's the roughest way I could possibly say it. Don't stab yourself in the heart just because your friends want to go play a game and you're not feeling up to it. Don't give in to the social impulses. Social impulses can actually financially ruin you. Thirdly, here's a great way to say that one point. When you go and pick up a game, don't just randomly spilly-nilly into it. Make it yours. Maybe the army you've got in the starter box isn't that great. Don't fall for sunken cost fallacy. Put it aside. Go look for the stuff you found that really makes it yours. Buy and play that. Once that is in your hands, you'll be able to make the right decisions. You'll be able to spend the right money. And what do you know? If something would usually cost you $200, but you're like, I'm going to hold out, and I just want to buy this one box. It's $45. Everybody else has spent the $200. You have $45, so essentially you have like $155 free. And then when the time comes around, you have an extra clock of time kicking in. Your 200 now has an additional 200 dropping in, so it's 200 plus the 155. So now you have a firepower of $355 because you waited for the opportunity. Think about it. Think about it. That is what I'm talking about there. This is the best way to spend money on games. How you spend your money over time. Don't give in to society. Make it yours. It's your game when you buy it. Know your game. Be in tune with your game. And when you start playing your game, you'll realize, yeah, I've got this. This isn't just some random expenditure I've jumped into for BS. I had a clear view on what my friends wanted. I had a clear view on what I wanted. I had a clear view on how my money was rolling in or not rolling in. And when the time came, I hit that like a ton of bricks. It's very vague, but like I said earlier, it is a mindset as well as a skill set. And what I've just covered right now with this video is the mindset part. The rest of it is math and return on your investments. This was pretty vague, but it was also on point. I said exactly what I needed to say. If you have any comments that have questions about what I said and want more detail on something specific for a very specific financial situation, bring it up. I can actually answer those questions, and if I get enough good questions, I'll make a second video about your questions. Thank you, and have a great rest of your week.